On this episode, we have Honda's first hybrid CR-V. And yep, we're taking it to the mountains to see how well it does on the same course where we've taken so many other crossover vehicles. That's coming up right now on Driving Sports TV. Honda's popular CR-V was redesigned just a few years ago. And even though it is one of the most popular cars on the market, it still hasn't managed to dethrone the best-selling Toyota RAV4, which has been long available in standard and hybrid trims. In our earlier review of the RAV4 Hybrid, we called it the best version of the RAV4 available. To see that review, click on the link in the corner. For 2020, Honda is finally bringing the fight to Toyota with an electrified version of the CR-V. This is the 2020 Honda CR-V Hybrid, and even though on paper it's very similar to the Toyota RAV4 Hybrid, the fact is this is a very different animal. But is it any better? That's what we're hoping to find out with a series of tests that'll take us from the streets to the mountains. The CR-V Hybrid starts at $27,750 with the base trim LX. The model we're testing today is the fully loaded CR-V Hybrid Touring. This has so much stuff on it, you don't really need any options. Price as you see it here, $37,070 including destination. Now that might sound like a lot, but it is still a couple grand less than a comparably equipped RAV4 Hybrid. In traditional hybrid fashion, under the hood is a gas engine with electrical enhancements. The petrol portion is a 2-liter 4-cylinder that runs on the Atkinson cycle and makes 143 horsepower. It's connected to 2 electric motors that draw power from a small 1.4 kilowatt-hour lithium-ion battery pack. One of these motors is for propulsion with 181 horsepower and 232 pound-feet of torque. The other acts as a starter generator. They're connected to a part-time all-wheel drive system that uses a direct force transfer, not a transmission. That uses a lack of a transmission called direct force I don't know what it is. They just call it direct force transfer. This setup replaces the need for a traditional transmission and all the bits we're familiar with. No torque converter, no CVT. It does use 4 fixed ratio gear sets and a lockup clutch to provide quick response and cruising efficiency. In this setup, the gas engine is mostly used to generate electricity through the generator motor. Does it sound weird? Yeah. Does it drive weird? We'll see shortly. Total power output with both gas and electric is combined at 212 horsepower, making this the highest output CR-V you can buy today, but still trailing the new RAV4 Hybrid by 7 horses. The EPA rates the CR-V Hybrid at up to 40 miles to the gallon in the city and 35 on the highway. For hybrids, it is pretty normal for economy numbers to be flipped, with the city being the better of the two, as we have here. In the back, we have a foot-activated liftgate, and because batteries take up space for a normal spare, under the floor is a compressor with a fix-a-flat kit. Since Honda kept the battery pack rather small, the CR-V Hybrid doesn't really lose much in terms of cargo space. You're looking at 33.2 cubic feet with the second row up, and 68.7 with the seats folded. That's about 7 cubic feet less compared to a standard CR-V EX. The CR-V Hybrid is only 1 cubic foot off from the RAV4 Hybrid's 69.8 maximum capacity. In the real world, that really shouldn't make much of a difference. Second row has lots of room. I have space for my legs, plenty of room for my head, and I get 2 2.5 amp charging sockets, which means you can power one of the new larger iPads off of that. And armrests with 2 cup holders. The cabin in this touring trim has been updated over the standard CR-V. The look leans heavy on natural wood veneer mixed in with quality leather and decent plastics. It makes for a comfortable, airy place to hang out for a while. You might notice that on the back side of the steering wheel are paddle shifters, but those aren't actually paddle shifters. They are to control the brake regeneration levels. You can use them to get more or less braking regeneration as you slow to a stop. This isn't the first time that paddle shifters have been co-opted for another function. Remember that Subaru S209? It uses them to trigger an intercooler spray. So there is precedent here. The seat has 12-way adjustments with memory and seat warmers, so getting comfortable is pretty easy. Hit the power button to bring the car to life. The main gauge cluster is all digital with a clear, easy-to-read design. You can toggle a variety of data points to suit your preferences. In terms of advanced safety, it has blind spot warnings, collision and road departure mitigation, lane keep assist, and adaptive cruise control. Honda isn't known for having great infotainment systems on their smaller cars, and here, the CR-V Hybrid stays true. Even though this touring trim has a larger screen than the standard trims, it still feels small compared to the competition. Because it is. This is a 7-inch upgraded unit. The RAV4 Hybrid has up to an 8-inch screen. And like other Hondas that use this system, it's not as responsive or as quick as I would like. Still, the Honda does provide an easy-to-use navigation setup, plus XM satellite radio, Apple CarPlay, and Android Auto through USB. Wireless mobile charging is included for compatible devices, but they do not provide wireless CarPlay. Switch into reverse and the screen doubles as a backup camera with moving guides. There is no rear auto braking, which I was kind of hoping to see at this price point.
Does not have auto backup braking.
You might have noticed that this doesn't have your standard CR-V transmission shifter. Instead, for this one, they adopted the push-button setup from the Acura division. It takes a little while to get used to, but I actually really like it. Much better than the rotary dial Ford has been using. There are various drive modes, including Sport, Eco, and EV only. Since the battery pack is tiny, EV mode only really gets you a short range at low speeds before the gas engine kicks in. Switching the drive mode into Sport and turning traction control off, we should be able to see how power is shifted to the back wheels. This system uses an electronically controlled hydraulic clutch between the driveshaft and the rear differential. But since this is a part-time system, it predictably pushes very little as we mash the throttle. This is typical for the class, as you can see in this RAV4 XLE clip. But just because this is a mainstream crossover doesn't mean it has to be this way. As you can see, more power is pushed to the rear with this Volkswagen Tiguan. So at this point, you might be asking, what does the CR-V gauge cluster say about this power distribution? Is it sending anything back there? The gauge cluster shows that maximum power is going to the back. However, from the exterior shots, you can see that clearly there's not a lot of power going back there. So it's possible, or we can derive, that the gauge cluster isn't actually showing us a 50-50 split, but it's showing us maximum power to the front, maximum to the back. If it can only send 20% of power to the back, that's still maximum, but it's not going to give us a balanced launch. So now it's going to be really interesting to see what this does in the mountains. On the way to the fun stuff, let's test out some of the more everyday features of the CR-V Hybrid. Driving the CR-V Hybrid on normal country roads is actually quite nice. Suspension is slightly firmed up compared to the normal version of the CR-V due to the slight increase in weight of the hybrid model. The brakes feel like normal brakes, which is quite a feat for a hybrid. They call it an electric servo system, and it really works, generating power when stopping without mush or delay between the pressing and the response. With the added weight, but the extra torque of the hybrid system, this 0 to 60 time should be interesting.
It's going to line up right here. I'm going to go ahead and put it into sport mode. See what that does for us. I'm completely stopped. And 3, 2, 1, go. 20, 40, 50, 60.
8 seconds is really right in there for the class. It's definitely faster than a Subaru Forester going 0 to 60, and about a quarter second slower than our test result with the RAV4 Hybrid.
One thing that is cool is that it comes with adaptive cruise control that has lane detection and lane centering. Let's go ahead and turn that on. I hit main to enable it. I then hit set my distance, and then turn on lane detection. Once the lanes go white, it's detected, and I can take my foot off and let it steer for me. And this actually does a really good job. It stays mostly in the center. There's a little bit of side to side, but nothing that I'm going to complain about. And of course, after about 15 seconds, it tells you to put your hands on the wheel because it is not a semi-autonomous system. It is really designed just to make longer distance travel a little bit more convenient. And a little less, cut down on that fatigue from all those micro adjustments while you're driving. Now this is an interesting system. It can run both in serial and parallel hybrid modes. That means that running around town, most of your stop and go is with the electric motor. The gas engine comes into play whenever it needs a little bit more power, but its primary purpose is actually to recharge the system. Now this actually has 3 different motive devices. It has a gas engine and it has 2 electric motors. In some ways, it's a little bit like the Subaru Crosstrek hybrid system, where you have one electric motor that actually propels the vehicle, and you have a second one that acts as a generator. The benefit of that is that theoretically you have all-wheel drive all the time, unlike the RAV4, which uses a dedicated electric motor in the back. I always like it when they come out with a hybrid that is the fastest version of a car, as is the case with this CR-V. If you get the traditional CR-V, it comes with a turbocharged motor, but it's not as quick as this one. This has a pretty beefy off-the-line feel, thanks to 100% of torque coming from that electric motor. The road manners of this car are actually quite excellent. The suspension soaks up any irregularities like you would expect, and it's actually kind of fun to drive through the corners.
Now let's point to the forest and see how it drives in more challenging conditions. It's important to note that there is no trail button here like the RAV4 Hybrid added for 2019.
So no, there are no off-road modes in this vehicle because it's not really intended for anything too aggressive off-road. However, you know, it's a crossover, it has all-wheel drives. People are gonna actually take it to trailheads, and some trailheads can be a little sticky to get into. So we're gonna try that out today. Typically they go through these and add a new layer of gravel before the spring, but I think with COVID-19, they've been a little slow to fix this. So we got a lot of potholes to deal with today. But the suspension is doing a really good job of soaking them up, actually much better than I would expect. Okay, let's kick it into sport mode and see if we can get a little kick out in the corner here. Lower it. Yeah, I can feel a little power back there. Now it's funny, you can't really feel the power in the back when you're doing just a 0 to 60 launch, but really when you have some speed and you have some momentum, you can get that little bit of assist in the back really does help with rotation, which is kind of surprising and kind of nice. I can see in the gauge cluster that my all-wheel drive system is being powered by both the electric motor and the gas engine to give me maximum output. And that's what you would expect from sport system. It really does the most aggressive in terms of delivering power. It also, of course, makes the throttle more aggressive.
As the trail turns to larger rocks, it's important to consider the approach and departure angles of this CR-V hybrid. Approach is only 18.85 degrees and departure is 26 degrees. You could say it's practically the same in terms of approach as the RAV4, but it has a much better departure angle than the Toyota's 21-degree angle. But when it comes down to it, neither of these sets of numbers are very good. For comparison, the Jeep Renegade Trailhawk we tested just last week had a 30-degree approach and a 34.3 departure angle. If doing anything even remotely challenging, that's kind of what you need if you want to get home with all your bumpers intact. Luckily, this portion of the course won't require much in terms of approach or departure.
Here we are, doing something we really shouldn't be doing with this vehicle. Also, did I mention it has 19-inch wheels with all-season radials? Yeah. So in terms of preparation, there really isn't much to do. First off, I'm going to turn off the parking sonars because those are going to be annoying. I'm also going to set this to the all-wheel drive display so I can see what that is doing. There we go. And other than that, we're just going to keep it in normal and drive up the hill. This system does detect that I'm on an incline and puts more power to the back. It's very, I guess, handy in situations like this. So far, it's doing pretty good. I seem to be able to crawl along pretty slow, which is something that you want. Also, note that if you do any off-roading kind of like this, you want to maintain momentum. When I'm testing here, I am going to stop a few times, and that's to purposefully stress the all-wheel drive system. So if you do that yourself, you might actually get stuck. Okay, first shift of power, I'm hearing ticking. I don't know what that back wheel's doing. I'm just keeping the throttle down and it's doing nothing. Okay, so when 2 wheels are off, all I smell is clutch. Let's try that again with a little more momentum. Oof. And if you keep in mind, this only has 8.2 inches of ground clearance. So not a lot. I have to be extra careful. Come on, you got this, you got this. Oh, there we go. I'm already getting a bad feeling about this one. Come on, you got this. So ideally, when you have the all-wheel drive system coupled directly to the power source all the time, potentially, that is a good thing, as we saw in the Subaru Crosstrek. But on this vehicle, it seems to be stressing.
Let's review to see if competitors did any better. The RAV4 Hybrid, though it did struggle a bit, actually did a much better job of clamping down on the spinning wheels to redistribute torque back into the system. You can see that happening with the front wheels here. The Subaru Crosstrek, though a smaller class of crossover, uses a drive shaft with a hybrid system like the Honda CR-V does. Though lacking in power, the Crosstrek does manage to clamp down on the spinning wheels to make better use of that available power. The Honda, well, when 2 wheels lose grip, it just kind of sits there, spinning its wheels, quite literally.
Now, this gauge cluster really isn't helpful at all. The all-wheel drive display is just showing me maximum power to all 4 wheels. That's it. I would like to see individual wheel braking occurring or something, so I have some idea what the system is doing. All I'm getting is a flashing of the ABS system. Come on. You got this. Oh boy. Here we go. I'm definitely not doing the whole. So it was able to get up the hill. It had a hard time doing it though. This is not a system for anything more complicated than that. That's for certain. Okay, well, we made it up. Now let's see how it goes down. I'm gonna go ahead and put it into drive, and down we go. So hill descent control system? No, it doesn't have that. Of course not. We're just going to ride the brake down. Now, the biggest issue here is going to be the overhang on the front. I don't want to hear any crunchy sounds. Oh, 8.2 inches isn't a lot. And that's quite a big overhang on the front. Let's take it down slowly. The suspension's on the soft side, so I don't want it to smoosh into a rock. Okay, I think we're gonna go around the edge here. Try to maximum clearance. Yee. Okay. So I think we have found the limits of the CR-V Hybrid, and it is this road. You do not want to do anything more complicated than this road because you may not make it out. However, if you're doing roads like this, you definitely want to look at something with a better all-wheel drive system, like the Honda Passport, for example. That would be a much better choice. For Driving Sports TV, I'm Ryan Douthit. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again next week. Be sure to leave a comment. What would you buy? Also, please give us a thumbs up, give us a like, and share our videos. Thanks again. Whew. Also have to be super careful. There's no full-size spare. Actually, there's no spare. It's just to fix a flat. If I have a flat out here, it's a long walk home.